thinking that it's a good action. I'll give you an example soon, right? But basically some of, the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, very famous hadith, "Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu min an-nar." Whoever invents a hadith against me, let them take their place in the fire. Yeah? This is a very famous hadith, right? Now what they say, and some of them were Sufis and some of them, they said, we're not, لا نكذب على الرسول نكذب له. Right? We're not lying against the Prophet, we're lying for him. Right? That's what so some of them said that actually, right? So they started inventing, and I'll give you an example of that in a second. Right, and another thing that's, one thing that you take from this, it's very important to distinguish piety from scholarship. Not everybody who's pious is a scholar. In fact, Abu Zinad, who died in the year 130 or 131, said, أَدْرَكْتُ بِالْمَدِينَةِ مِئَةً كُلُّهُمْ مَأْمُونَ مَا يُؤْخَذُ عَنْهُمْ الْحَدِيثُ يُقَالُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِهِ. This is in the Muqaddimah of Sahih Muslim, the introduction to Sahih Muslim. He said, I met in Medina, this is just after the time of the Prophet ﷺ, 100 people, every single one of them is trustworthy, meaning they're good people, right? But hadith is not taken from them. They're not from the people of hadith, right? So the muhaddithun were very, very careful. Just because somebody's pious, some people think that somebody's a waliullah, right? There's nur on somebody's face, doesn't mean what they say is right. You got to be, another thing is that what some groups do, I don't want to name names, but even though maybe I have been sometimes, I don't generally like to. But, some people, you have some speakers who, they have huge crowds, but when they talk about hadith, they're mentioning fabricated hadith. They're mentioning weak hadiths. The book, Fadail A'mal, Fazali A'mal. Really full of munkar, mawdu', weak hadiths, wahi hadiths, I don't know how many of each category, but, it's not a dependable book.
Is it a specific author or just
Yeah, just look it up because, Fazal. Yeah, there you go. If I say that, it's being recorded.
No, we have to see it.
Yes, I do. You should. Okay.
From them.
Yes, we do. We do. We do. You should. Mullah Zakaria Kandahlawi wrote Fazali Amal, right? And it's full of very, very weak wahi, munkar, mawdu'. They know the good Tabligh Jamaat. They've replaced it with Riyadh al-Salihin, which is much better. Even Riyadh al-Salihin is a bit better. Has some problems, but it's a lot better. It's probably the best work on the topic of these types of hadith, raqa'iq. Okay. Subhanallah. Okay, so so there's deliberate attempts. There's not so deliberate. Okay, yeah. So there's deliberate attempts to distort the sunnah, right? Then there's not so deliberate attempts. So for example, some people might not be so diligent in what they hear and what they. Some people might be too young. By the way, for example, I was discussing with Malik yesterday. This hadith that's usually mentioned, or this verse of the Quran that's usually mentioned, that there was a verse in the Quran to do with stoning. That وَالشَّيْخُ وَالشَّيْخُ إِذَا زَنَيَا فَاجْلُمُوهُمَا الْبَتَّ نَكَالًا مِنَ اللَّهِ. Right? That the shaykh and the shaykha, if they do zina, stone them. Right? As a, this is not in Bukhari Muslim. It's in Muwatta, but Sa'id ibn Musayyib was at the maximum 7 or 8 years old when he heard this, right? From Umar ibn Khattab, right? A 7-year-old or 8-year-old child, is not at the age really to really, I have a 7-year or 8-year-old child. I wouldn't depend on her, giving me a verse of the Quran that's supposed to have been taken out, right? It's not that, you don't do that. So there are, you have to be careful when you're taking. So this is not, and in fact there are many proofs that this was never a verse in the Quran. Even the balagha of this verse is raqiqa, is not so strong. And I've done a study through Bukhari and Muslim and Muwatta of this of the chains of this hadith. So there's not so deliberate attempts as well. The people are not so. Even in the stream, if I say a few things, some of you will be more diligent than other people. That's just a natural thing. So. So all of these challenges arise, so the ummah develops a methodology to sift through this stuff. Very, very sophisticated actually. Now, if you just think, if you were to live after the life of after the death of the Prophet ﷺ by 150 years, what methodology would you come up with, right? What methodology would you come up? Just think about that. I'm not going to do a discussion because we have to get through so much, but just think about what would you do. So, okay, so let me just turn this around. Okay, so let me just define two things. This is now we're getting into the methodology, right? You have two things. You have isnad and you have matan, right? Now, if I say to you, okay, here's a chain of narration. This is an isnad, okay? And isnad means a chain of narration. Isnad means support, literally, yeah? But in hadith terminology, it means a chain of narration because the matan, the text it supports the text, yeah? So, if the Prophet ﷺ said something, C heard him, then B heard C, and A heard B, and then let's say you hear, or let's say you're A, yeah? So you hear B, yeah? So for you, you have a chain of narration all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ, yeah? You're A, you heard B, tell you that C said, tell you that the Prophet ﷺ said X, yeah? That's a sanad, okay? Yeah.
What is the requirement in order for C?
Very good question, excellent. Very good. I'm going to come on to that right now in a few minutes, inshallah, yeah? So A, B, C, Prophet ﷺ says X. That's a chain first, okay? The matan, where's the matan? Where's the text? X is the matan. That's called the matan. Matan is text, the hadith itself, right? In fact, in hadith terminology, when the early muhaddithin said, I have 1,000,000 hadith, they weren't talking about this side. They were talking about this. I have 1,000,000 asanid. I've learned 1,000,000. That's what they mean. So some people who deny hadith say, where are all these 1,000,000 hadith gone? That Bukhari was talking about, Ahmad ibn Hanbal was talking about. There's only 7,000 Bukhari. Where have all gone? I said, you don't understand how they used to speak. I said, you not even studied hadith and you're trying to critique hadith. When they say hadith, they mean this side. So today when we say hadith, we mean just this, don't we? Right? That's a later understanding. The early people meant hadith, they said hadith is this, okay? Just bear that in mind. Now, this is some terminology, right? Hadith and, isnad and matan. Right. Now, prior to the emergence of fabrication and dishonesty and negligence, people generally accepted what was being said. Generally, if they were scholars and stuff, people didn't go into that much detail because there's no need. The Sahaba are talking to each other, the Tabi'een are talking to each other. They would, but there was even Umar ibn al-Khattab said, I'm not going to accept what you're saying, I'm not going to accept what you're saying. There is something, but this starts to become much more important after the fitna, after year 35, 40, yeah? Much more important. And if somebody claimed that the Prophet ﷺ said something, they would say, Asnid, give me your isnad. Give me your isnad. Tell me where you got it from. Muhammad ibn Sirin, who's Basri, died in 110. He said, Inna hadha al-ilm deen, fanzuru amman ta'khuduna deenakum. Indeed, this religion is deen. This knowledge, meaning the knowledge of the Prophet ﷺ, his sunnah, is religion. Look, examine where you take your religion from. Okay? He also said, they did not used to ask for isnad, but when the fitna took place, i.e. the political fitna, they started to say, Sammu lana rijalakum, name your narrators. Name your narrators. So, فَيُنظَرْ فِي أَهْلِ السُنَّةِ فَيُؤْخَذُ حَدِيثٌ وَيُنظَرْ إِلَى أَهْلِ الْبِدْعَةِ فَلَا يُؤْخَذْ حَدِيثٌ. Okay, Abdullah ibn Mubarak said, Al-isnadu min ad-din. Isnad is from the religion. وَلَوْلَا الْإِسْنَادُ لَقَالَ مَنْ شَاءَ مَا شَاءَ. If it wasn't for isnad, whoever wanted to say whatever they wanted would have said whatever they wanted. Okay. Now, this is isnad, this is matan. Let me give you an example of a hadith and its isnad. This is the famous hadith of indeed actions about by intentions. Right? I'll read off the... Do you want me to turn the lights off or? Where are they? Right. This is the isnad. This is the first sanad, the first hadith in the collection of Imam al-Bukhari, the great collection of Sahih al-Bukhari. So this is Bukhari at the beginning, yeah? And then you have Al-Humaydi, his teacher. Then you have Sufyan, that's Ibn Uyayna. Then you have Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari. Then you have Yahya ibn Sa'id, the great Imam of Medina. Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi, who was a governor of Medina. Alqama ibn Qais. And Umar. right? And then the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, etc. Yeah, that famous hadith. Indeed, actions are but by intentions. So this is the chain. How many narrators between Bukhari and the Prophet ﷺ? 6. Very good. That was quick. So this is a 6th degree hadith, a Sudasi hadith. Yeah. In Bukhari, there are many 3-level hadiths, 3-degree hadiths, where he only has 1, 2, 3 people between him and the Prophet ﷺ. I think there's about 23 in his book, right? So, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So there's quite a few of those. So this is the chain, and for this hadith. Okay, now conditions for authenticity, right? The brother asked the question. What criteria do you apply on this narrator, right? Or on this chain. So this chain needs to have, it can't just be any chain. It can't be Tom, Dick, and Harry said the Prophet ﷺ said, right? Can't be, right? Then what value does the chain have? So what are the conditions? Did I put them down? Okay, here's one, right? So the first one is adalah, which is reliability, right? Which this means 2 things. That he can't be what's known as majhul, meaning he can't be unknown. We need to know who this person is, right? Who is this person, right? Is he a known quantity or not? This is first, right? I.e., is he on the map? Does he exist even? That's what I'm talking about. Does this person actually exist? Is he a fictional character or not? Does he exist? Because somebody just might say, Muhammad ibn Isa or Muhammad ibn Yusuf said. How do we know Muhammad ibn Yusuf even existed, right? So this is the first aspect of this, right?